Good morning, all you happy people. I'm Lisa. This is my buddy Vanessa. I'm starting this channel. This is my very first video, so please don't laugh at me. And I'm starting it to try and help all the chronic illness folks that are out there. This being my first video, again, don't laugh at me. What do you think would be like the first thing that people would like to hear about, Miss Vanessa?
Well, I think that maybe they would like to know when this started for you.
This all started back in May of 2015. I began my CRPS journey with a broken finger. Actually, it's something that was called a volar plate injury. What happened was I torqued this little pinky right here. It went all the way sideways. Fun. And what happened was there's a little disc over this joint in your finger. And I tore the tiny little ligament that holds it onto your finger, tore it off, and fractured this bone in the process. And that little tiny fracture started my CRPS journey. And the unfortunate mistake that I made, which is the mistake that most CRPS patients make, is I went to the wrong specialist. I went to an orthopedist to begin with, instead of going straight to a pain management specialist. Had I gone to a pain management specialist to start, I might have been able to rule out the CRPS diagnosis or confirm it rather than going the route I went, which was, as I said, going to an orthopedist and getting the diagnosis, which was that I got, which was a misdiagnosis. The misdiagnosis being a compressed ulnar nerve. And of course, the orthopedist immediately said, "Let's do surgery, yay!" Mm-hmm. So he did what's called a cubital tunnel release and released the ulnar nerve in my elbow. And that, of course, is a new injury. So he caused my CRPS to spread. And so my CRPS went up my arm, traveled up all the way to my shoulder. And that was as of September of 2015. So by January of 2015, my CRPS had spread all the way up my arm, all the way up to my shoulder, as I said. And by that point, I was no longer sleeping well. I was in severe pain all the time. My arm was burning all the time. And I was spending most of my nights, sort of thrashing around, not sleeping, keeping my husband awake. And by February, my husband said, "You know what? You're done. We're going to pain management." And I went to see my wonderful doctor, who's been seeing me ever since. By March, he diagnosed me with CRPS after conducting a series of tests. CRPS is a diagnosis of exclusion, which means that it is a diagnosis that is reached after a series of tests meant to basically rule out every other possibility. They do nerve conduction studies, they do MRIs, they do a whole bunch of other tests that I can't even remember right now because of RSD brain. Brain fog is one of many symptoms that I go through. And brain fog is just a sort of pet term that we use to describe the lack of memory and lack of concentration and lack of cognitive ability that we go through on any given day. So that's how my CRPS journey began. Of course, since then, various injuries and surgeries have caused my CRPS to spread to all of my other limbs. And so I have my CRPS not only in my left arm, but also in my right and in both of my legs and feet. So again, this being my first video, what else do you think should be the first thing that folks should know, Miss Vanessa?
Well, I think people will need to know that it's one of those you cannot see disabilities. So whenever you are seeing someone that needs the parking spot free, don't judge them. Not all of disabilities will be obvious.
Oh, absolutely.
And so far there is no cure. There are only treatments. I think it's important for them to know.
Absolutely. And CRPS is, some doctors classify it as a neuroimmune disorder, and some classify it as a neuroinflammatory disorder. Either way you slice it, it's a son of a gun to deal with, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It is hard to live with. If you don't think that you have heard of a neuroinflammatory disorder, I'll bet you have. Have you heard of MS? Yeah, you have. MS is another neuroinflammatory disorder. The difference between CRPS and MS is that MS affects the myelin sheath that covers the nerves, whereas CRPS affects the nerves directly. And it basically inflames the nerves themselves. It affects the way that the nerves interpret injuries and the pain that is associated with them. It affects the way that the nerves interpret the continued pain that goes on even way after the injury is healed. I continue to feel the pain of this broken finger 5 years after the finger's healed. I feel the pain of a sprained foot a good year after it's been healed. And usually the pain of the injury is way, way, way out of proportion to the initial injury. The McGill Pain Index is a tool that doctors use to measure pain across multiple conditions. For instance, I do believe cancer is listed on the McGill Pain Index as a 30.
Okay.
Natural childbirth without drugs is listed as like a 35. CRPS is listed on the McGill Pain Index as a 42.6. The amputation of a finger or a toe is listed as a 40. So that gives you some idea of the pain that a CRPS patient lives with every single day. This disorder is no joke, and it's still classified as a rare disease. So it's one of those things that, there's not a lot of awareness
I didn't even know that existed.
No, there's not a lot of awareness. And so there's not a lot of funding for research right now. And there's not a lot of help. There's not a lot of help out there for patients like me. I got lucky when I found my pain management specialist. He happens to be like the best of the best in Texas when it comes to CRPS and the treatment of this condition. Not many in the U.S. are as fortunate as I got,
Yes.
and that's just because I was by the good graces of God, I was fortunate, and I just happened to pick his name out of the hat on a Google search.
It's lucky if you want to say it like that.
And so, I went to see him, and it's just bam, he's like one of the leading researchers on CRPS and the treatment. And in the U.S. it's very rare. So we need more help. We need more research, and we need more funding. So rsdsa.org, find it, donate, please help with research and funding. They're a wonderful organization. They offer a lot of resources and help for caregivers and patients and loved ones of this terrible disease. It's I can't stress enough, how much the families need, in terms of not only funds to help with just the medical bills that are associated with the disorder, but also with just the daily comfort, and help with clothing that's comfortable, with footwear that's comfortable, with bedding that's comfortable. There's so many things that we need that most people don't even think about. Just the idea that even your clothes can hurt. The idea that a good stiff breeze can hurt. Just brushing up against the wrong tree can hurt. You have to watch your every step. Oh my goodness, I'm getting emotional. What else can I tell you, Miss Vanessa?
Well, I think this is just it's important to understand that there will be good days.
Yes.
And mostly bad days. I never heard of it before, and I noticed that the very basic activities that we realize that we perform every day, they will become on time very, very difficult to perform for them. And there will be good days, like our basic day for us, and there will be days that they cannot even leave the bed, and being in that bed as well is hurtful for them. So I think that close mostly for today, and there will be more because I convinced her to convince Lisa to start talking about it, because there will be people like me that doesn't have an idea of what is going on, and that way she can help more people to understand that maybe their pain is not only in their brains, as many people would like to say sometimes.
Yeah, it is not all in your head. And Miss Claire has decided to say hello. She loves everyone too. But, seek help at the earliest available opportunity. CRPS usually begins with an injury to your hand, or your wrist, or your foot, or your ankle. It can even begin with something as simple as a sprained ankle. So, I'll be honest with you, it's better to go straight to a pain management specialist and rule it out. That's the best possible scenario that you can get, is to rule it out, rather than go the way of most patients and the way that I did, and go through so many specialists that just weren't the correct specialist to go to. And the most hope that you have for remission and for curative treatment is within the first 6 months after your initial injury. And if you get beyond that first 6 months after your initial injury without a diagnosis, then it's the higher your possibility for a permanent, I would say, sentence with CRPS, But beyond that 6 months, you're kind of stuck with it. So, the sooner you get help with it, the better. Again, it's better to rule it out. If you can rule it out, great. But if you can confirm it within that first 6 months, that's your best hope. And if you confirm it, so much the better that for your prognosis. That's just a fact. It's been proven that if you get treatment within that first 6 months, your prognosis is much better than if you don't. I've been a CRPS warrior for 5 years now, and I ended up getting my diagnosis almost a year after, and Miss Bonnie has decided to say hello. I got my diagnosis almost a year after my initial injury, and it's been tough. As Miss Vanessa said, there's days I can't even leave the bed, and even staying in the bed is still hurts. But there'll be good days, there'll be bad days, there'll be days that I look terrible, that I look worse than usual, but I'll be here, and hopefully I can offer you some information and some education, and one way or the other I can offer you some hope for the future. Hope to see you all out there. Have a great day.